This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody and welcome to the show. I've got a chat with Tuomas Saukkonen. He's the fella at the centre of Wolfheart and he's also in Dawn of Solace and Before the Dawn. This conversation though is all about Wolfheart because Draconian Darkness is the name of the group's new album. It'll be out in August, I believe. Yes. So there's plenty to discuss in regards to the album. We go there, but a chat with a fella as prolific as Tuomas is never just limited to the matter at hand. We go much further than that. We discuss career, thoughts and opinions on different things. And Tuomas is a very engaging conversation, I must say. So much so that we actually ran out of time. So I'm looking forward to part 2 whenever that might happen. So I have picked a song for you. If you have tuned in via the podcast apps, this one's called Even Fall. Of course, it is taken from the new album. For all you good people on YouTube, you probably know the drill by now, but I can't play music on the platform, so we'll cut to the chat. Either way, let's go.
am sorry, I'm late.
No dramas at all, brother. How are you?
I'm busy but good. Horribly busy, but busy but extremely good because of that. Because it's a huge amount of interviews. New label is doing a really good job. There's a lot of stuff happening, but sometimes I make this like a domino effect with the bad scheduling, and here I am 7 minutes late.
Never a drama, brother. Really, honestly, I know how it is for you guys when they put you on these I call them Zoomer grinds.
But I love this because the other option is doing emailers.
Yeah,
And I do them, of course. Never miss an interview. But yeah, it takes me like 1 or 2 hours to finish one. And yeah, of course, no interaction. So I would 10 times more do these kind of interviews all day long than do any emailers in the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Hey, just on Rising Phoenix, how did the band? So how did Wolfheart get signed to Rising Phoenix? Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, it's like our deal with Napalm ended, and they made an offer to continue with them in the future. But since we had the opportunity, we wanted to like see what else is available. And our management has a really good connection with the guys running the new label, and they contacted them straight away. So, and we knew already when the contract ended with Napalm that they are going to be interested, and there's going to be a new label, but we need to wait a little bit until they are like fully running.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it went super easy and simple because our management had already his feet between the door when the whole label was being started. So
yeah, okay, I'm hearing you. It's interesting because your album comes out on the heels of Kerry King's album, and that was the album that Rising Phoenix have put a lot of their energy and effort into. So it sounds like as though they've got enough people on the ground to accommodate everybody. So you know what happens normally with someone like Kerry King, someone of that stature, all of the energy goes into them. And then everybody else gets it, 1% divided up between 10 people or what have you. So you didn't feel that. You feel as though Rising Phoenix are actually doing a great job for you.
Yeah, and that's really important that we have the management who has already like a very strong connection with the main guys of the label. So we didn't get buried underneath the bigger bus because they have Orden Ogan is releasing an album. They are huge in Europe. They just got the album out. It's in charts in 5 countries at least in Europe. So Kerry King wasn't the only big thing happening.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's been going really well, and I didn't feel that we were not a priority because same with Napalm. They have a Powerwolf and all those kind of like huge bands.
Yeah.
So like in every label, you would have the same issue if you are not in the right place in the hierarchy. So it doesn't matter if it's new or old label, but you mentioned Kerry King. To me, it was also like a good reference. Like if he chooses this label, because he could just walk into any label in this universe. So if he chooses that and his management and people running his business think that this is the number one label where we should go to get the whole thing started, then that tells a lot good about the label. A lot of things has to be really well planned. There has to be already strong names from the industry working inside the label to get this guy like a monster band, because they also brought Meshuggah, Opeth, Amorphis, for example, from Atomic Fire.
Yeah,
they
I know.
Signed him also. It's I think this is the biggest business move in the metal industry in like 20 years. So it's there's always a risk. I was aware of that in any business, when you grow to be a big in very short amount of time, that's a huge challenge for the resources. But so far, we are doing better in numbers with the music videos and the pre-sales than we did with Napalm. So they are doing a really good job. There would be statistics if it wouldn't go if it would work well. Also, it wouldn't be just my opinion if you look at the video views and streaming and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah, conversation for another time, or it's an adjacent point. But I wonder what the hell happened with Thomas and Meshuggah, because they were with one album on Atomic Fire, and then they've come across to Rising Phoenix, and that's interesting to say the least.
But there's same people, like what I know. Of course, I don't have all the facts, but there's same people now running RPM that were at least starting Atomic Fire. So there's a connection. Right? There's a connection between the labels. So what I think there's a little bit same than with when Atomic Fire was like born. A lot of big names from Nuclear Blast jump Atomic Fire. Usually, if a big enough guy or girl from a label joins another label, he will bring his bands with him. The bands don't want to cut the ties with the people. They rather change the label. So I think it's more like that they're same people changing from label to another one, and then the bands just follow. So because they want to keep their basically winning team together, then the name of the label is just a name. They want to keep working with the people they've done before.
Yeah, great insight. I appreciate that. Actually, yeah. So let's talk Draconian Darkness. That's the name of your new album, okay? And look, I've read the bio. Fantastic album, by the way. Well done. I've sort of stripping back my interviews these days, and I've done tons of them, but I'm only picking the interesting ones. So please take that as a compliment. It can be good or bad when you say that, but it's a good thing. But Draconian Darkness, look, I understand, and I've heard it, I can hear it. It marks a bit of a return, particularly on tracks like Evenfall, to a more stripped down, more direct, more in your face, more focused, guitar driven approach. What inspired that?
Well, I am a guitar player and I do write the music, so I did different things a little bit differently on the previous album, like and that was the direction that we chose, and wouldn't change anything. Now we're looking at back of the whole thing, but that was the most mid-tempo and melodic album we've ever done.
Yeah,
a lot of songs, the main things are happening with the keys or only with the lead guitar. Like it doesn't have that much if you're a guitar player. It's not, and we noticed that when playing some of the songs live, that there's not much happening with the guitar. It's kind of like I don't want to use the word boring because I don't mean the music is boring, but for you as a musician, suddenly there's no challenge at all. It's just like maybe it is boring. I need to use the word. That's because that's the word that fits the best. Like I wanted to have more to play for myself. Because also that's I like when the guitar has more dominant role in music anyway. When the guitar is like driving the song. So yeah.
Yeah, you're also. I was listening to one of your interviews before we got on the call, and you're a big fan of percussion and drumming as well.
Yeah.
And the cadence in which. So do you obviously play drums as well, but did drumming and percussion play a big role in how these songs are formed?
Well, kind of, yeah. Like when I write the songs, I always we don't rehearse together in that sense. We don't like go and jam around new music. Our guitar player lives in Athens, so he's like 5,000 kilometers away.
Yeah.
We mainly see in the studio and festivals and tours.
Yeah.
So it's when I write the songs, I send the guys like full song with the full arrangement with the basic bass, drums, and guitar. So when I write riffs, each riff already has a drum pattern. Like it's not just riffs, and then I think send to the drummer, and then he decides what to put there. It already has the basic, because to me they work together. Like in my head, when I play guitar, I have a drummer in my head playing. When I play drums, I imagine guitar riffs on top of that. So they all always walk like hand in hand.
Okay, gotcha. What about What about new things? Did you try anything specifically different and different for you and even for the band? I know you've been in a ton of bands and you play all of the instruments and the like, so it's a bit of a challenging. When I say framing the question can be a bit of a challenge because you're always doing something different because you're doing everything. But was there anything intentionally different on this album?
Yeah, we wanted to change a little bit the balance between the orchestrations and the guitars, because what we previously did, that there is the songs and the riffs and the arrangement and everything, vocals, and then as the last thing in the studio we add the layers of keys and orchestrations. But with our low tuning and baritone instruments and the riffs, it can be very challenging to spare any room for the orchestration. We already steal a lot of the frequencies with the stuff that is already on the songs. Sometimes where the keys fit really well, it takes a little bit of the power away from the guitar, or it just doesn't. It just sounds too full and doesn't have a punch because of that. So we did a lot more thorough pre-production, where we did all the orchestrations already. We had most of the orchestration done before we even went to studios to record the album. So we have a lot better reference how to arrange the guitars in a way that in the right spots, the guitar sounds like, hammer in your face, and in the right places, there's enough room for the orchestrations to give this cinematic feel to it. So it was more not the writing itself, but the arrangement part took a lot more time to underline the strengths of the album.
Okay, gotcha. Talking about the strengths of the album, I understand from the bio that you were pushing the dark elements of, whether it's the lyrics or the music, either way, you're pushing them even further on this album there. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, it was actually both, yeah. Music was more intentional from the beginning, because I always write the lyrics in the final state in the studio. I need to have the song ready to be able to write anything that makes sense to my head. But yeah, music-wise, I wanted to and we wanted to make it a lot darker than the previous few albums, at least, and also the orchestration to be more menacing and more like a science fiction or horror movie than this heroic movie.
Menacing.
So,
menacing, menace.
Like this movie soundtrack, when you hear it and you know that something bad is happening, or now you're going to see the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
More like this than the good guy ends the winning battle or the ending battle. But and also I wanted to push a little bit more more clear death and black metal elements to the certain riffs and certain harmonies and stuff like that. Lyric wise, it kind of just happened. It's the whole theme of the album is a little bit darker than the two albums before, but there I didn't do anything intentionally trying to change something into darker direction. It just followed the theme of the album.
Okay. What about any significant challenges or problems you had to work really fucking hard to overcome on the album?
Not this time. This was a good album to make. We have had certain difficulties, a few albums before. Our drummer had his one of the discs in his lower back popped out, but sideways, so it kind of had some issues with some damage on the nerve on the left foot, which kind of it's a bad thing for a drummer. Naturally, not being able to control your left foot properly when you're doing double bass, so that was a big obstacle in the studio and for the band also for a while. And on the previous album, I had some issues with my upper back and core, and I couldn't push enough air for my growling. So we had a lot of issues to get the sound work, and that started to be stressful because we had the deadline and we didn't have any vocals because I sounded like Tom Araya, which is not a bad thing if you are Tom Araya. But if you are not the vocalist of Slayer and you're trying to sound like a death metal vocalist, then it's not a good combo. But on this album, there was none.
Wow. Okay. That's the first time, is it?
Well, luckily not the first time, but the middle part of the band's career kind of seemed that every time when we go to studio, we get some really weird curveball to deal with the recordings. But I guess we also learned that now we had more time now. We started the pre-production a lot earlier, and we didn't have any pressure with the deadline. So if we would have needed like 1 or 2 weeks off from the studio to change something or whatever, it wouldn't damage the deadline of the album at all. So we also played a little bit smarter. So if there would have been obstacles, we would have been also able to work around them a lot better. Of course, that's how it works. Like when you prepare, nothing happens. And when you are not prepared, everything gets fucked up. That's just the law of
Murphy's Law, brother. Yeah. Murphy's Law on that point. I know exactly what you're saying. And yeah, then you got to have contingency for contingency. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. What about this then? So you typically, you're one of those guys who's boundless creativity is the word that the phrase that comes to mind. Okay, so before the dawn, Black Sun, Eon, Wolfheart. I know there are other bands there. When you're at the very genesis of songwriting, do you pick which bands you're going to take a certain song in? So you know, this one here it's going to go Wolfheart, this one here it's going to go Black Sun, etc.
The decision, if there is one, happens when I get the very first idea. If it's a riff or drum pattern or a melody, then I know already on that point which band I'm going to write the song. Because I don't write in a way, that's not my style to write, that I just record a lot of riffs and ideas and then come back to those ideas and start to like build a puzzle of those. But I always start to work around the first idea. It doesn't matter if it's a chorus or verse or C part. I just start to like build all the rest of the ideas around that. So then I'm only locked into this one idea of a song that is already like for one of the bands. So it never happened before that I have a song that I have a need to change it for another band, or like I think like this is because music is also a very flexible form of art. Like I could take some of the riffs from Wolfheart new album, have a little bit different tempo and arrangement, and they would work perfectly on Before the Dawn also. So of course the songs could work. Like just drop the tempo of any of the melodic song, that would be Black Sun Eon song basically. Like,
okay, gotcha.
But in a way, like you could make them work. But when I'm writing the song, I only think about that one band and the album where the song is going into. So I never look back and have regrets that this should have been on that band or this should have been on that album, because I also work like one album at the time.
Yeah.
Like when I'm working with I haven't been writing anything for any other band until Wolfheart album was recorded. Then I started writing for next the Dawn of Solace album. And then when that is done, then I might do Before the Dawn. But I don't work different bands at the same time, because it's just that wouldn't allow me to focus fully on the one particular band.
How much of a hand do you have in the production and the mixing and mastering side of things?
Not much anymore at all. Then again, I have 2 sound engineers that I work with every time when I go to studio. And they do all of my bands. So we actually were joking about that today. There's like so many things that we don't need to talk about anymore. Like we know already. We do talk about the main guidelines and what we want to hear, but we know each other on a personal level. It's like not just that we are working together, but we've been friends for more than 15 years or 20 years. So it's, we know really well what we want to do and what the other one is bringing on the table. Also, I know my weaknesses as a songwriter and a musician, which I try to improve every time when I come to studio. So the job for the sound engineer would have a different starting point. But I think it wouldn't be a good decision for me to get any more hands-on on the mix or the mastering or the final stage of the production, because I think I would be only circulating the same patterns of ideas back to the album. It would be just me in the little box, and I wouldn't be able to contribute that much anymore. I would just suppress the quality of the album, and everybody will eventually get deaf to his own music. The more you listen, the more you focus, the more you hear things that are not there, and more you think that should be there that the song doesn't need. So I'm really happy and about this balance we have now, that in certain point I can just raise my hands and the other guys will take charge of what's happening. Of course, nothing goes out that I don't approve, but I'm not going to sit in the studio while they work. They are professionals in their craft. I'm not a sound engineer. Why should I try to be one? I just like to write songs, and if it sounds good when it comes out, we are all happy.
Many writers don't like reading their own work, and it's very true for musicians who don't like listening to their own music because their inner critic is too strong. Where do you stand on that?
You mean like listening to my music?
Yeah. Can you listen to your music without being critical? Like, do you enjoy it?
Yeah, a lot. Because I always thought it funny, because I've heard this quite many times from other bands and in interviews that they don't listen to their albums. And why would you write an album that you don't? Because I mainly write for myself, like things I would like to hear and play. And there's certain songs I still listen to quite a lot. Of course, I do listen the songs massively between the pre-production and the album recordings. So I have a full tsunami of the rotation of the songs before we even go to studio. Then I have another cycle with most of the songs, because I do all the music video production, and the editing of the videos, so I get to hear the songs dozens of times again. But still, I do listen to mine. I don't understand why. If it doesn't go well, if it's a bad product, if it's not where you want it to sound, of course, then it's a disappointment. Nobody enjoys a disappointment. Then that's something you shouldn't listen. But at least for now, I listen to not all of my albums. There's 23 albums out now. So, but I could listen to any of the albums and enjoy it fully.
Okay. Well, you've answered my next question then, which is that Dave Mustaine for a long time, I might be journalist word that I'm parroting here, but I think he thought of So Far So Good, So What as a failure. Great songs, but the production was so bad it ruined some of the songs. I think he feels that way about Euthanasia now, and I think he's bang on point, because that album's, there's a whole bunch of reasons why that album sucks, but it could have been a lot better. But for you mentioned 23 albums there, and as I say, you almost answered it, and my question was going to be, and I'll ask it anyway, do you view any of your albums or even EPs or anything you've been involved in as far more of a learning experience because of what you learned through failure than a success unto itself?
Yeah, through a lot of different failures. Like sometimes it's me or my vocals, which I'm the most delicate thing for me to be happy about my vocals, or it's the people we choose to work with, or it has been very unhappy how label handled the release, and that has that reflects on the whole memory of the album, because the failure was not the music but everything that followed. So they can be a lot of things. It's not like I don't have any albums that I'm disappointed with the music, but there's albums that has bad things. How can I explain it? Not bad karma, but things didn't go well in the end.
Vibe's not good. Yeah.
To have a good release, a lot of things need to happen and go well 1 year in a row after the album is out. So if there's a lot of obstacles, a lot of disappointments that followed when the album came out, I don't want to mention the albums because I don't want to mention the labels or the people. That's not what I want to do. But if there's a lot of, somebody fucks things up and you get really pissed off, that's the thing that you probably first remember when somebody mentions the album. It's not the music, but there were things that didn't go well enough, and that had an effect on your career, or it buried the album in the markets or whatever. But there's been a lot of things, and I hopefully learn from each mine or somebody else's mistake.
Hey, I'm just going to do a time check. Have we got time for more questions, or have you got to get to the next chat?
Well, I came in late, so I'm just gonna explain the situation for the. It's a radio. Fuck.
Is it?
I might not have much time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. One last question for you. You're an interesting guy. I want to ask you this question. Ozzy has famously disowned the Ultimate Sin to the point where they haven't remastered it or remixed it or anything. They've just left it. And Tom has done the same thing with Celtic Frost's Cold Lake. He will never touch it. What's your view on that, given that they're two of my favourite albums, I've got to say, because they're albums that I listened to growing up. And that it doesn't affect my perception of them, but I don't like it when artists disown albums because they don't know how the fans feel about it. How do you feel about that?
I don't think you should, no, you shouldn't touch it because it was product of that time. It should sound the way it was meant to sound at that point. Of course, a lot of things like we have this, like the whole mastering war kind of thing. Everything needs to be on its limit to sound as loud in the streaming as it can.
Yeah,
stuff like that. But still, it changes the sound. It's still, it's not a modern music anyway. It's not going to be that easy to win new fans, even with the remastering or like remixing or whatever. But it's not going to sound the same for the old fans, and I don't get the point. Like why? Like then again, I would like to hear "And Justice for All" with actually bass in it. That's like is that I would love to do, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. We all are.
Otherwise, it sounds like it should. They meant it to sound back in the days. I think that's just like a damaging, like music history. That's people should be able to only know that one version of the song when they go back to the memory lane and check something that was done in the 60s or 80s or 70s or whatever. And that piece of music should represent the sound of that time. It shouldn't sound today's music.
Yeah, no,
I don't get that.
Totally, I'm totally with you on that. Wish we had more time. Let's do it to be continued. When you've got another project or tour, or we'll chat then. We'll continue it then.
I would be super happy to do that.
Yeah. Good luck. Congratulations, mate. No worries.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. A chat with Tuomas Saukkonen from Wolfheart and a bunch of other bands that we discussed throughout the chat. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll put the link to pre-order the album and all of that usual stuff in the episode description if you haven't stumbled across it yet. All right, there are many more chats just like that one over at scarsandguitars.com. If you are curious, conversations with members of bands such as Morbid Angel, Cradle of Filth, Death, Testament, Megadeth, need I go on? Of course not. You know the drill by now. If they're a heavy metal artist or an extreme metal artist, chances are I've had a conversation with them at this point it's approaching 800, or it's over 800 conversations now. Lots. So many to choose from. All right, that's it from me. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Until the next one, it's a goodbye for now.